Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I'm very excited to do because I'm going to be ranking my face palettes. I have quite a bit in front of me. Last year's I did just collection and declutter, and this year I decided to do a ranking style video. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Eva and I love all things beauty. If you like face palettes, if you like ranking videos or makeup in general, give this video a like and I invite you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that already. And without further ado, let's dive into ranking all my face palettes. On my eyes today, guys, I'm wearing my new Mothership 6 by Pat McGrath eyeshadow palette Midnight Sun. I've been really enjoying it. I recently picked it up, and of course you will hear me talk about it in my future videos very soon. So let's get to my face palettes. But today, guys, I have 13 palettes in front of me. So I'm gonna start from a palette by Milani. This palette was launched last year. I did a separate video review for it. This was launched in two different shades. So there's a bronzer here, highlighter, two blushes, and a few of the eyeshadows. And we all know that Milani has some very nice staple formulas for complexion products. I don't have anything bad to say as far as the shades go in this palette. I thought that the finishes were really beautiful. The blushes, the highlights, everything was really nice. However, this palette was very powdery and it was so patchy on skin. And even for my very pale complexion, there's really no depth within these shades to create a nice dimensional look. I wish one of these shades were a little bit deeper. That's why this palette made it on the last spot today. I do have a palette that many of you may not even know about. And this is a palette that I've had for some time. However, I used to love it when it was really just one of the palettes that I had. And this is a face palette from Smashbox. Here on top and on the bottom, they were all highlighters, and then there was contouring, shade, a bronzer, and that banana powder. I thought this was a fabulous palette. Of course, this palette was launched in the contouring days. I have a suspicion that this was a holiday edition from Smashbox. Back in the contouring days, oh, this palette was fabulous. Even after the time passed, all these pans, all these products still perform. This highlighter is still one of my favorites. It's probably not as perfected as the highlighters these days that we're so spoiled with. However, it does have that pearlescence with a pink shift to it, that a beautiful duochrome highlight. This palette is no longer available. That's why it made it towards the end of the ranking. And I do have a very interesting palette for you guys. And I did mention briefly this brand before on my channel. You guys know that I was born in Russia. And last time I went to visit my family was last year, and I did pick up this palette there. This is by the brand Pupa Milano. It's called Never Without All-in-One Face Palette. It does have a bronzer, brush, setting powder, highlighter, and some sort of concealer. Pupa Milano is an Italian beauty brand. It's not available in the United States. It is available in Europe and in Russia. So whenever I travel to see my family or in Europe, I definitely try some of their products. I used to have the first older version of this palette, and I used this to death, you guys. I panned the entire palette. There was literally nothing left. So when I saw this newer edition, I definitely picked it up. It was a no-brainer. So the quality is really nice. I wish the highlighter was a little bit bigger pan. It's a little bit uncomfortable to use it out of this small pan right here. I do have an interesting palette for you guys. This is a palette by NARS. It's called Make Up Your Mind. This is a face palette that has a bronzer, 3 blushes, and eyeshadows. These are the tones that I like. These are the blush colors that I like. The eyeshadow formula that's here is actually quite lovely. I do reach for it. I've traveled with this palette quite a bit. The reason why I ranked this palette a little bit lower is because it's not as exciting anymore. There's just so much makeup coming out, and the brands are becoming so creative with like packaging and themes. As much as I like everything that I see in this palette, I just don't reach for it that much, but I do like the quality of all the products. Hey guys, I do have a palette by Benefit. This is a Cheek Leader Bronze Squad by Benefit Cosmetics. I have a disclaimer to say to you guys. Any palette that's coming from this point on to number 1, is really, really good. I reach for them, I love them, and I enjoy them, and I recommend them. Here in this palette, there are 2 bronzers, 2 blushes, and the famous cookie highlighter. And then there's also this little brush. Initially, I thought it would be useless, but however, this brush has a really nice shape and it's actually useful for bronzing your face. I truly enjoy this palette. I really think that this cookie highlighter is absolutely very special. It's blinding. If you do not like blinding highlighters, this is definitely not a highlighter for you. I really like all those formulas from Benefit. The reason why I rank this palette a little bit further out on the list is because I unfortunately do not use all the pans right here. I tend not to reach to a Hoola Caramel because of its undertones. I have a palette that I've raved about so many times. This is a all-star palette by Physicians Formula. This was the second palette that was launched of its kind from Physicians Formula. I have all 3 palettes and I have a very detailed video review and comparison on all 3 palettes. I know they just recently launched the Breakfast Club one, and I haven't picked that one up, but I do have all my intentions to add it to my collection. I also ended up watching a movie, which I never watched before. This all-star palette I really love. You got 2 bronzers, 2 different highlighters. One is a little bit more pearly, one is a little bit more gold. Then there's a blush and the powder. The reason why I ranked it a little bit, again, a little bit further out and lower in my rankings is because this blush is not, however, universal. I really like the idea of a face palette that I would open it up and I would do my whole entire complexion using just one palette. This would makes it for me in a face palette. I have another one of its kind, and this is Butter Germ Team by Physicians Formula. This is a 3rd palette out of the launches of the face palettes from Physicians Formula. I use a lot of it. I love the bronzers. This is a Muru Muru bronzer. Then you get a little bit a deeper bronzer with slightly more red undertone and matte finish. You get 2 different blushes. This blush is a cream formula and it has that beautiful sheen to it. It's like a satin finish. I've used this blush quite a good amount in summer and it would give you this beautiful flush cheeks. I love the effect of it. Such a beautiful formula. And of course, highlighter and the powder. This palette was different from other launches because all these products were available in a single packaging. I do love this palette truly and I reach for it a lot. However, I do have a better options coming up. On the spot number 5, I do have something that is also very special to me. I love everything that this palette has to offer. We have Cheek Leader by Benefit Pink Squad palettes. Here we have 2 different bronzers, Hoola and Dallas. There are 2 different blushes, again, 2 different undertones. We have a slightly warmer blush and we have a cooler tone blush. And then there is a Tickle highlighter, which has that pink shift to it. Again, blinding formula. Also, there was this brush included, but I never really reached for it. It's slightly different shape than the one in the previous palette. Why I rank this higher is because I love everything that's in this palette. You have different undertones within blushes. You get this blinding highlighter. Bright highlighters is still my preference, and I love both of these bronzers. Hoola bronzer is a matte formula, and then Dallas highlighter has a sheen to it, but it's a very, very subtle sheen that just makes your skin looks very healthy, glow from within type of effect. I really love this palette. I do not own one single separate product from Benefit for complexion, and because I really don't like the packaging. I know recently they made the blush packages a little bit thinner and more compact. However, I'm not interested. They're still very boxy. I would rather have a larger palette like this and have 6 products in one, or a 5 rather, and this makes more sense to me. On a spot number 4, I do have maybe an unexpected product. However, you've definitely seen it on my channel here. This is a Play Bento box in the shade Butter Up by Kaja. You may have seen this little box in several of my videos and in my recent ranking video of cream bronzers. This is a very special item in my collection. You get 3 products. You get a beautiful blinding highlighter, a matte blush, and a cream bronzer. All these formulas are fabulous. I've traveled with this a lot. You guys can see how much of the cream bronzer I've used up already. I keep this box for traveling purposes primarily. I do reach to the blush and a highlighter pretty often. I've never had an issue with packaging open it up while being in a makeup bag. I love traveling with this. I also have their eyeshadow bento box and I love them. I adore them. They palette are just so useful. This is the smallest item out of all the face palettes that I have for you today. However, this is a little hero in my collection. On spot number 3, I do have a palette that is special to me. I shared this product with you multiple times. This product has been out for some time. It's not new to the market by all means. I love this so much, not only because the packaging is so beautiful, however, what's inside of it is beautiful. This is a natural face palette by Too Faced. You get 2 bronzers, 2 blushes, and 2 highlighters. This palette is very special to me because this was a first high-end face palette that I purchased. The finishes and formulas of all these products that are included here are fantastic. The pans are not very big, however, they are big enough for me to put the brushes that I typically use. So you get 2 different bronzers. One is glowy and a little bit more on a red undertone. Then you get matte bronzer. Then you get a glowy bright blush and then a little bit more muted one. 2 different highlighters. Highlighters are pretty blinding, which is up to my liking. I've traveled with this palette so many times, I honestly lost count. This is my go-to. This is my baby right here. I love it so much and it's not going anywhere. On spot number 2, I do have a palette that I just use a lot. It is a great quality. It's not the bestest packaging. However, I use it, I abuse it. And this is a Butter Collection collaboration with Walia Hong by Physicians Formula. To my best knowledge, this was the first palette of its kind released from Physicians Formula. There's no mirror in this palette. However, this is what the palette looks like. You get 2 bronzers, 2 blushes, and 2 completely different highlighters. And this was broken, I repressed it, so it's not looking very pretty. This one just cracked. The highlighter formulas are very creamy, so they're very soft. So I think I would need to repress this as well. I think very soon I'm gonna be seeing a pan on this bronzer. These 2 blushes, they are limited edition from this palette. However, I wish they would release them as permanent items. These are gorgeous, these are pigmented. The shades of the blushes that you see here, this how it looks on your face. I love this palette so much. Okay guys, we made it to number 1. Can you guys guess what's on number 1? When I lay down all my face palettes in front of me, this was a no-brainer. I knew right away what my number 1 was gonna be. This is a Glam face palette by NATASHA Denona. I use this palette pretty much on a daily basis. This highlighter is my go-to. It does look like I may be hitting a pan on it very soon. Eyeshadows here have a fantastic formula. I reach for them a lot. So this entire palette is just a spot on first love. It truly was a love from a first application, I should say. I know some people struggle with this, a cream blush. It is definitely that blush that's on a drier side. I use a very soft but dense brush with it and I have no issues. This blush does not budge. I've traveled with this many times. I definitely cherish it. This always goes with me in my personal bag. I never put it in my actual luggage. Or if this would disappear out of my collection, I would be in Sephora literally that same day rebuying this. Okay guys, so these are all the 12 palettes that I wanted to rank for you today. However, I do have a bonus for you. I did not include this palette in the actual ranking because technically it's not a palette, but it is. I wanted to show you this Z palette from Ulta Beauty that I have. This is a large one. I know these palettes used to be popular in the days when there were a lot of single eyeshadows. I picked this palette up because I wanted a Z palette for some time and I was looking for one. Guys, I wanted something that was a larger size and then something that had a window so that I could see through it. If we're talking about this specific one, I really love it because it's really good quality and it has a really nice strong magnet and you can see through. Why I wanted to include this in my face palettes is because you don't have to buy already existing palettes. Sometimes there are products in the face palettes that you know you're not gonna use. However, you're almost forced to buy it because you like something else within that palette. However, you can always build your own and put it in a Z palette and have your own face palette. Very compact with all the eyeshadows, blushes, whatever else you wanna put in here. Put the products that you like and you wanna use and customize it to your liking. Okay guys, this sums up my video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it entertaining and helpful. If you enjoy watching ranking makeup videos, I will have an entire playlist linked for you in the description box and at the end of this video in the cards. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and I hope you consider subscribing before you leave. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me today and I will see you in my next videos. Bye.